Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakrito Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshbhir Yajatraha Sthirairangai Shishtuvagam Sastanubihi Yashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashavaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti Nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In the understanding of what the Upanishad teaches us, there are many steps, but two of the crucial steps have to start with the Jagat that we know. Outside of us, external to each one of us, we know a Jagat, which consists of many tangible and intangible objects. The first step, first major step we want, is to see that these do not exist on their own. They all go through a cycle of being born, being sustained, and resolving into something. Everything has a starting point, a time in which it exists, and then resolves back into its cause. This cycle may be very short, this cycle may be long. But everything in the Jagat goes through this process. That is step one, which then tells us that the cause of everything in this Jagat, all of which is non-self-existing, we don't dismiss the Jagat because that's how we start. The Jagat is there. Has to be a single cause. And that cause we call Ishvara. Jagat Karanam Brahma. At this point, the seeker is still looking at Ishvara as something outside of himself. Whatever form he wants to give, whatever akara he wants to give, it is outside of what the person thinks of as a self. Therefore, in the process, there is a lot of prayer, Saguna Brahma Dhyanam, Upasana of various types. In fact, this forms quite a significant bulk of the learning process. An acceptance of Ishvara, And therefore, that Ishvara, who is the Karanam for everything, a single Karanam, has to be all power and all knowledge. Note the words. I'm not saying all powerful and all knowledgeable. I'm saying all power and all knowledge. And if that Ishvara is all power and all knowledge, we can certainly approach Ishvara for anything you want. It's all power and all knowledge. Even for small things that we want in the Jagat. We go to the person who has the power in that area, in that field, or knowledge in that area, or both. If you find that you want to get rid of your tenant who is not going, you can either go to a professional lawyer who has more knowledge about the law which governs how we can get rid of him than you do. We go to him and using his knowledge, we take whatever action we take to achieve the end, a limited end, which is to get rid of your tenant. The other alternative to get rid of the tenant and recover your property is to go to the local gunda. He doesn't have any knowledge, but he has lots of physical power, muscle power. He will simply go and beat up that fellow and say, if you don't want to go, fine. Tomorrow I'll come and break your leg. All power. So we, even for small things in the Jagat, we go to somebody who has either more power or more knowledge or both in the field in which we are operating. Once we accept that there is Ishvara in any form, it doesn't matter what form it is, who is the cause of this entire Jagat, that means that Ishvara must know everything about the Jagat. You cannot make a clock, you cannot be a clockmaker without the knowledge of every component of the clock, without the knowledge of how each component works with the other components and arrives at the function that you want. It is true of also Jagat Karanam Ishvara. Everything works. The planets work in a certain fashion. The human mind works in a certain fashion. All the laws that we think are laws governing everything that happens. All that knowledge is Ishvara. Therefore, we have a very good reason to approach Ishvara for everything. It doesn't matter what it is. My eyes are failing, I go to Ishvara and say, please give me a few more years of being able to see this wonderful Jagat that you have created. And the same tenant who doesn't leave, you can also go to Ishvara. Ishvara, I need that property. Please get rid of him. So he might find a job in another city. Or he might go to his employer and complain that this is what he is doing. Employer also may do the same thing. He may transfer him to another city. But Ishvara has complete capacity, power and knowledge to do all this. Every single thing that is operating in this world, Ishvara is the knowledge. Every strength that is available in this world is Ishvara. Every vibhuti belongs to Ishvara. Balam balavatam chaham tejasvi namaham. Every glory, every vibhuti is only Ishvara. Therefore, when something like this Atharvashirshopanishad largely talks about Ishvara, praising Ishvara, is considered an Upanishad that can be used in every form of prayer. Therefore, we see this being chanted in every Ganapathi temple. We give Ishvara a form of Lord Ganapathi. And to that Ganapathi we pray as Ishvara. Because that Ishvara is everything. So in this first step, what we gather is that there is a Jagat, but the reality of the Jagat is only Ishvara. Therefore, we are equating everything in the Jagat to Ishvara. What happens to the nature of the Jagat then? The nature of the Jagat then is one that exists, we know, but cannot exist on its own. So you have a lot of these examples. Every form of clay product is nothing but clay. Cannot exist without the clay. Therefore, we come to one methodology that all Shastra uses, all Shastras use, is this called Adhyaropa Apavada. What do? You first take the entire Jagat and say, yes, it is there because I can feel the Jagat, I can perceive the Jagat, I can touch the Jagat. All my senses recognize the various things in the Jagat. And then, having established the Jagat and having established that there must be a Karanam, a material cause and an intelligent cause, come to the stage of saying, okay, it's true, but it cannot exist on its own. So in a sense, you negate the entire Jagat. Or entire Jagat is nothing but Ishvara. So a lot of people on that frame saying, even people who are seeking the truth, first discover this truth. The truth of the Jagat and the truth of Ishvara are non-separate. Look at the word that Shastra uses, non-separate. It doesn't say they are the same as emphatically, because Jagat does exist on its own. Not on its own, exist, perceptibly exists. But a little vichara tells us that it has no independent existence. No swatantra, it is paratantra, dependent on another. Suddenly, a lot of things change. Therefore, people who have reached that step in the process of seeking. Or often people who behave in a certain fashion. People who say anything that I am, anything that I do, any capacity I have, any power I have is not mine. So when somebody does something really nice and others come and appreciate, saying, oh, what a wonderful thing you've done. It is not uncommon to hear, "Sab Bhagwan ki deen hai. Ishvara's anugraha that it has happened. I am only the nimitta." How much they mean of it is a different issue, but many people will say that. Therefore, this Upanishad is a large focus on this. It says, Tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi. The entire pratyaksha jagat is Ishvara. Then you take it to the next step of understanding. So we equated Jagat and Ishvara as being non-separate. Anything external to me is the Jagat, and that Jagat is Ishvara. What about what I think I am? Having come to the conclusion there's only Ishvara, that Jagat is only a, use various words, illusion, but the real thing is, it is Maya. And Ishvara is a Mayavi. I can see now, I can see the Jagat, all those trees there, all those everything else there is Ishvara. Therefore, I can pray to any tree, like every ancient religion did. Pray to every tree, pray to every river, pray to every fire, pray to every animal. I am still identifying I and non-I. Then I examine it further. What is the difference between all those things external to me and the sharira of mine? This sharira is no different from anything else in the Jagat. In that, this sharira also goes through the same cycles that everything else goes. It has a starting point, it has a time in which it exists, and it then resolves back into its karanam. If that is so, is the sharira not the same as the rest of the Jagat? So you take out the sharira and physically put it in the Jagat. I had an I and a non-I. All the sharira now I take out and put in the non-I. You can't do it physically, but cognitively you can do that. What does it leave? Ephemeral, subtle body. How about that? I've removed all the physical objects. What about my power to think? My power to see? Tvameva pratyaksham, prati aksham brahmasi. Every sense, aksha is Eye is in the power to see. Prati aksham brahmasi. Hey, Ma Ganapathi, you are not only the physical body, as I've already discovered, that the physical body is part of the Jagat, and therefore you are that physical body is you. My subtle body, my capacity to think, my capacity to perceive, everything is also you. Prati aksham. So now into the second part of the equation. Having discovered that the Jagat is nothing but Ishvara, and having arrived at an analysis of all the elements that I thought I was, and finding that all of them also follow the same route of being the Jagat, and therefore non-separate from Ishvara. And then comes the clarity of understanding. I have now only one Ishvara. Everything else in Jagat has gone into Ishvara, including my body and all my Sukshma Sharira. But I still exist. I am there and Ishvara is there. That is the crux of Vedanta. Tat Tvamasi. All this is Tat. That I have left with nothing to define it. That Tvam and the Tat are the same. This assimilation of knowledge, everything, in one sentence it says, Tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi. And that, which now everything has now in our thought, in our cognition, resolved into that one Brahman. Everything else is covered in this one sentence. The rest of it you will find, we'll say the same thing this way, we'll say it this way, we'll say it the other way. Tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi. In fact, this occurs twice in this Upanishad. Once here, a month later on. And then the detailing. Tvameva kevalam kartasi. Having looked at it both ways, saying that the entire Jagat which is created is Ishvara. Even if I have not yet come to the second stage of understanding that Ishvara and I are both nothing but Brahman. I go into the appreciation of the fact that Ishvara is the creator, only creator. Ekam. Tvam eva pratyaksham brahmasi. Tvam eva kevalam kartasi. Tvam eva. Tvam eva kevalam kartasi. You created this Jagat. You sustained this Jagat. Into you the Jagat resolves. So now if you look at the cycle of everything in the Jagat, some small cycle like a moth, born, is gone within the few minutes. Or you take a mountain range like the Himalayas, born is but gone sooner or later. All time bound. Everything in the Jagat we only see in this framework of time and space. That time and space also we have seen is nothing but Ishvara. Like every other law, whether it's gravitation or any other law, is nothing but Ishvara. Time and space also are nothing but Ishvara. So in this portion of this Upanishad, the focus is on that portion, on that part, saying everything in the Jagat is non-self-existent, is nothing but Ishvara. There is only one Ishvara. You can give it any form you want. Here, the form given is Lord Ganapathi. And because you can give it any form you want, you pray to any God. There is no difficulty. The problem comes only when a person limits and says, this is the only God. I don't recognize any other God. If everything is Ishvara, how can you make a statement like that? Therefore, if a Shiva follower condemns Ganesha, he is a problem. If a Muhammad follower condemns all the other gods, he is a problem. But the problem is one of just not understanding. Tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi. That one sentence, if one does enough vichara, it's enough. It is adequate to at least make one think. It is the truth of everything, the Atma of everything, the Tattvam of everything. External to yourself, also whatever you thought you was I, including that. Every sense organ is the same. Pratyaksham. Shrotrasya shrotram manaso manoyat. Another Upanishad says the same thing in a different way. Vachoha vacham. The ear of the ear, eye of the eye, walk of the walk, prana of the prana. None of them can exist without which. That Satyam is Ishvara. So, Tvameva kevalam kartasi. You are the creator. Tvameva kevalam kartasi. You are the only protector, preserver. Tvameva kevalam dhartasi. So that much is implied in seeing Ishvara as Jagat Karanam, the creator, sustainer, and annihilator, if you want. Therefore, the next part of that says, Tvameva sarvam khalvidam brahmasi. Khalu idam, indeed here. Idam sarvam is only you. Hey Ishvara. I'm still the seeker is talking to Ishvara with a form. Saguna Brahma Ishvara. But those who have already studied this for some time can also recognize the truth of Tattvamasi. So space, time, every object. Therefore, this Ishvara, or now we call it Brahman, has to be unlike anything else, all of which are within this time-space framework and therefore limited by time, limited by space. What is here is not there. What was yesterday is not there today. What is a notebook is not a pen. Whatever I thought I was is not you. from that, when we understand that the very Atma, very Tattvam of everything is step one Ishvara, step two that Brahman. Then when Bhagavan says, Sarvabhutastam Atmanam Sarvabhutani Atmani, that begins to make sense. When M.S. Subbulakshmi sings in the UN and says, Atmavat Paranapi Pashyata. See everybody as yourself. How can you see that? Unless you understand something of this. And if you can see that, the first line then makes sense. Maitrim Bhajata. Then that line makes sense. Then there is no spardha, then there is no yuddham, because you're seeing everything as yourself. Meva sarvam khalvidam brahmasi. Everything here is nothing but that Ishvara. There's a whole system of explanation for this. Ishvara first created the Panchabhutas in a subtle form, Sukshmavat. That Panchabhutas in their subtle form is nothing but that Ishvara called Brahman. Akasha is Brahman in the form of space. Vayu is nothing but Brahman in the form of Akasha and Brahman. Akasha, we say, came first because more subtle. Prithvi is nothing but Brahman in the form of Vayu and Akasha. We have these five. These five then become the five sthula. They mix and match and become all kind of perceptible bhutas. They become more gross now. But if Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa and Prithvi, each one is grosser than the previous one. Therefore, the statement that Prithvi is nothing but Brahman in the form of Akasha, Vayu, Agni and Apa. Pervades everything. What is subtle pervades what is gross. So from that you get this Panchabhuta which are grossified. And because they all have arisen from Maya, and Maya is Trigunatmika, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. And therefore, all of these are also Trigunatmika, and you have these combinations that are possible now of the three gunas also. Then you get the variety. Some very subtle things, some very gross things, some which are more sattvic, some which are more tamasic. There's a variety that you get here. The entire Jagat. The Sthula Sharira also depends on the Sukshma Sharira only. Without the senses, the Sthula Sharira is a dead body. And in time, will resolve back into the Panchabhutas. Dust unto dust. That's the only level that some people are able to see. But if you see it even more subtly into the 5 elements, therefore senses which are subtler than the physical body, but the senses themselves depend on the mind, which is subtler. We will see all this in a text called Dishya Viveka, which will take up also one of these days. The mind is also dependent on the antakarana, ego. And the ego is also dependent. So even within this physical body, we have these gradation of subtlety. So that on which the ego has to be dependent has to be more subtle. Ego being ego assumes that I am the ultimate. Therefore, without recognizing that on which the ego is dependent, we superimpose every property of the ego and everything grosser than the ego on to the self. If you look at subtler and subtler, we have these physical things in the world. At one level, we understood they're all combination of molecules. Then we got subtler and said they're a combination of atoms. Then we broke it down and said a combination of neutrons and protons and electrons. And now our human mind has gone even subtler. And we are desperately searching for boson, calling it God particle. There's a particle, it's physical matter if it's a particle. Subtler and subtler and subtler till we are able to cognitively see that which is the subtlest of everything, consciousness, without which none of these can exist. Sameva sarvam khalu idam brahmasi. Although the word Brahma has appeared in all these 3 statements, we are still in the form of prayer, upasana. Now we're going to looking at it a little bit more subtly. Sarvam idam khalu tvameva. Everything in the Jagat is Ishvara. Tvam sakshad atmasi nityam. Take it up one more level. Ratchet up. You are the very truth of everything, the Atma of everything. Atma of every product made of clay is clay. Truth of everything made of clay, whether it's a jar or a pot or a whatever else, serving different functions, is nothing but clay. The truth of every gold ornament is nothing but gold. The truth of everything in this Jagat is nothing but consciousness. Without that consciousness, these have no existence. Therefore, Shastra repeatedly emphasizes, you cannot take them out separately physically. I cannot see the Jagat without seeing what is the Atma of the Jagat. I see a tree, I should be able to see Brahma. I see a river, can I see Brahman? Just like I told you, the bullion trader will see every golden ornament, he'll see only gold. So many grams of gold. He can't see it. But not that he doesn't see that gold ornament. He also sees the gold ornament, but he is able to see that gold in that gold ornament. Sakshad Atmasi Nityam, and this is an invariable fact. What generally we tend to do is only see the Nama Rupa. What a lovely necklace. Beautiful. The workmanship is superb. It's only gold. Sakshad Atma, the very essence of everything. And it is not dependent on time. In fact, not dependent on time, not dependent on space, not dependent on anything else. Therefore, that famous statement, Desha Kala Vastu Anavachinna. In the individual human subtle body, we do see that. But when in individual Sharira, we see only a reflected Atma. As an example, it's only, don't immediately physically say it's a reflected Atma, like a reflected Atma. The entire Jagat is like Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam. That we cannot see without the original. Although we don't see the original. You see in a lonely night one shadow moving. You're not afraid of shadows. But what is the implication? The shadow cannot be there without a physical body. But we only see the shadow. And yet all the reaction that you get if you see that in the night somebody comes, one robber comes, all reactions are there. It is the same thing with this Jagat. Sakshad Atma Sinityam. That Atma, that consciousness, if we can see in everything, in every bhuta, gross elements, subtle elements, combination of elements, in every being, that vision is what Shastra is trying to present to us. You cannot see the Atma. It is not available for seeing. It is not available for any perception. But we know that all this cannot be there without some basis. That basis is what we call Brahman. That Brahman existed before this creation. He is there now during the creation when we are only able to see the creation, but not what is the Atma behind the creation. It will exist even when this whole creation goes into Pralaya. Saumya Sadeva idamagra asit. Sat. That alone existed. All this is only Namarupa. Gold only existed before the entire shop had golden ornaments. Gold only exists during the existence of all these ornaments. Gold will only exist, only gold will exist after these ornaments are melted down. Ornaments won't exist. Ornament didn't exist before. Only the sat of the ornaments, which is gold. Sadeva idamagra asit. One gold ornament shop caught fire. And all the gold melted. You have to physically separate them out, but all the gold melted. Let's assume for purpose of our argument. And one fellow comes and consoles the shopkeeper. Sadeva idamagra asit. That sat is there now also. It was there when your shop was operating. It is there now also. Apparently, that fellow says, I took so much trouble, my goldsmiths took so much trouble to make all this. As far as the Jagat is concerned, everything is Ishvara. We lose nothing. We gain nothing, we lose nothing. Sakshad Atma Nityam. Kalvidam Brahmasi Umeva Sakshat Atmas Nityam. There we go. How does it go? Tvameva kevalam kartasi, tvameva kevalam dhartasi, tvameva kevalam hartasi, tvameva sarvam khalvidam brahmasi, tvam sakshad atmasi nityam. Again. Tvam pratyaksham brahmasi. By that time, hopefully one would have seen that everything I see in the Jagat, I see that one invariable Brahman called consciousness. We use the word consciousness in the Jagat also to distinguish between an entity which is sentient and an entity which is not sentient. But consciousness is not just that. Even a non-sentient entity, a stone, cannot exist without that consciousness. There is no existence other than that Satyam. Therefore, Satyam, Sat, Chit. Consciousness. That Satyam is consciousness. Sat is Chit. Chit is Sat. And that Ekameva Advitiya Sat, one recognizes as Chit. Chit, one recognizes as Sat. Swami, there are two things I have read in the Upanishads. Sat, Chit, Ananda, and Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. I can understand the first two. Sat is Satyam, Chit is Chit. And Sat is Chit, Chit is Sat. But what is Anandam and Anantam? Every single sense of Ananda, small or big, is nothing but a lesha of the very existence. Chit, Sat. And that is Ananta. I like to say this, no, when you are filled with Ananda, it happens to us every now and then. It can happen in a beautiful sunset, which we get a lot of here in Arshavidyalaya. People who come here will know that. It can come in any small thing. At that instant, what is the feeling one has? Ananda. And the expression of the feeling comes as what? I want nothing else. Because there is nothing else. That Ananda is Ananta. Can come, like I said, in any way. When you had a great dinner, enjoyed every morsel of food, tongue is feeling satisfied, the stomach is feeling satisfied, the whole body is feeling elevated. Life is full. That is the expression we find. Ananda as an expression of Ananta. That Sat is Chit, that Chit is Ananda or Ananta. That Ananta is Chit, Ananta is Sat. Although we use all these three words. That is Satyam. So he says, Ritam Vachmi, Satyam Vachmi. I declare that Brahman, who is everything, not limited by time, not limited by space, not limited by any vastu, as the Satyam. I also declare that as Ritam. In Shastra, when these words, which have the same meaning, are used together, Satyam and Ritam both mean truth. English, there's only one word. But here uses two words, Ritam and Satyam. Similarly, further ahead you will see Jnanam and Vijnanam. They have different connotations, if not actual meanings. Satyam Vachmi, Ritam Vachmi. I declare you as Satyam. I recognize you as Satyam, as the only existence. I also recognize you as Ritam. So when these two words appear together, they have to be understood. Normally, you will not find repetitions in Upanishads. It is already so crisp and so cryptic that it doesn't waste words by using two words for the same thing. So they have to have different implications. What is Satyam and what is Ritam? We will look at that in the next class. What is Satyam? What is Ritam? And later, what is Jnanam and what is Vijnanam? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om